Hiking boots used to last 10 to 15 years. Today, repair professionals and long-distance hikers watch them die before 500 miles, soles delaminating, midsoles collapsing, uppers disintegrating. If you recently paid over $150 for a pair, yours may already be failing. Brands profit every time you replace instead of repair. That failure follows a timeline, and it starts with 3 shifts the industry buried. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, a hiking boot was more than just gear. It was a long-term investment. Full-grain leather formed the backbone of every serious boot, chosen for its ability to withstand years of abuse, weather, and reconditioning. The upper was not just glued to the sole, it was joined by a Goodyear or Norwegian welt, a stitched barrier that locked the boot together, layer by layer. This was not a hidden feature. Catalogs from LL Bean and Red Wing spelled it out in bold print. Goodyear welted Vibram sole, built to last a lifetime. French makers like Galibier even drew diagrams in their ads, showing how each stitch could be cut and replaced without damaging the leather shell. Cobblers played a central role in this ecosystem. Hikers brought their boots in every 2 or 3 years for a new Vibram outsole, often for $40 to $60, a fraction of the original price. A single pair could see a decade or more of service, with some owners keeping boots alive for 15 years or longer. Receipts from Seattle repair shops in the early 2000s list Vibram outsole replacement, $45, and vintage backpacking groups still trade photos of boots with their original red laces and deep-lugged soles, proof of a design meant for endless repair. This system was economically sound. The cost of a resole was low enough that even budget-conscious hikers could justify it, and the construction made it routine. The lock-stitched welt meant a cobbler could swap out a worn sole in an afternoon. There was no mystery, no built-in expiration date. Durability and repair were standard, not a luxury. That is the baseline the industry quietly abandoned. Factories didn't just drop the stitch, they replaced it with glue. The old welted seam, a physical barrier that could be cut and re-sewn, gave way to a single line of adhesive. Cemented sole construction became the new standard because it slashed labor costs and fit the demands of automated lines. But glue is a single-use deal. The bond is the only thing holding the sole to the rest of the boot. If that adhesive fails under heat, moisture, or repeated flexing, the entire bottom peels away. There is no backup, no way to repair the connection. Factory bond strength specs for cemented soles bottom out at 1.2 megapascals, barely enough to survive a few hot summers or a week of wet hiking. Stitching, by comparison, routinely held at or above 2 megapascals and could be visually inspected for wear. The cost cutting didn't stop there. Polyurethane midsoles, which held up for thousands of miles, were swapped for EVA foam. EVA is lighter and easier to mold, but it is notorious for compression set. Lab tests show EVA midsoles lose 15 to 20% of their thickness after just 10,000 flex cycles, double the compression rate of polyurethane, which averages only 8% loss. In real-world terms, that means the boot's cushioning collapses before there is any visible wear on the tread. Hikers start noticing sore feet, less support, and a midsole that feels dead after only a few hundred miles. The result is a predictable chain reaction. The glue bond is now the single point of failure, and the midsole underneath is guaranteed to flatten out long before the upper gives way. Factory engineers, working behind closed doors, have traded decades of service for a few months of comfort and a guaranteed return customer. The next weak link, the upper, would soon follow. Split-grain leather, nubuck, and synthetic mesh didn't just lighten boots, they introduced a new failure point. Material engineers point out that these modern uppers are built from thin, layered panels, each glued at the seams instead of stitched. The logic is simple. Glue is fast, cheap, and fits the assembly line. But as soon as abrasion or flexing starts, those adhesive bonds become the upper's weakest link. Factory abrasion tests show that glue-dependent seams peel open twice as fast as stitched leather when exposed to grit and repeated bending. In lab settings, split-grain panels delaminate. After just 20,000 flex cycles, barely a year of weekend hikes, while full-grain, stitched uppers hold together for 5 times as long. On rocky trails, mesh and synthetic overlays shred at the edges, letting water and debris creep in. Once the glue line fails, there is no practical way to repair the upper. Cobblers confirm that these laminated panels cannot be reattached without damaging the material, turning a minor seam split into a death sentence for the boot. The result is a product that looks technical on the shelf, but starts to unravel at the first sign of real use. This is how the final piece of the durability puzzle was stripped away, one glued seam at a time, leaving today's boots with a built-in expiration date, hidden in plain sight at the edges of every panel. Merrell Columbia and the wave of generic Amazon boots have become the poster children for disposable footwear. Merrell's Moab line, now under Wolverine Worldwide, is infamous among repair shops for soles that peel away within a year. Owners report midsoles collapsing before they hit 400 miles, and the design is so cemented and synthetic that cobblers will not even attempt a resolable. Columbia's hiking boots, priced to look like a deal, are built to fail even faster. Hiker forums are filled with stories of midsole breakdowns at mile 300, sometimes sooner, and not a single official repair option exists. The company's warranty quietly promises replacement, not repair, a subtle admission that these boots are meant to be thrown out, not fixed. Then there is the generic tier, boots sold under dozens of names on Amazon, often for $60 or $80. These pairs routinely fall apart in one season. The mesh uppers shred, the glue lets go, and the soles flap loose. There is no warranty, no support, and definitely no repair shop willing to touch them. Buyers end up paying twice, once for the cheap pair, then again for a real boot, after the first one fails before 200 miles. This is not bad luck. It is a pattern, driven by business choices that prioritize turnover over trust. If you have had a boot fail in under 500 miles, you are not alone. Scroll through any long-distance hiking thread, or ask a local cobbler, and you will hear stories of delamination, crushed midsoles, and split uppers. Comment below with your mileage before failure. The numbers, 200, 300, maybe 500 miles, are not just anecdotes, they are evidence. The more stories that surface, the harder it gets for brands to hide behind marketing claims and planned obsolescence. Buying smart means beating the math that manufacturers count on. The brands that still honor repairability, Salomon, Loa, and Danner, are not just old-fashioned, they are the last defense against the endless replacement cycle. Salomon's X Ultra and Quest lines, when built with a visible welt, can be resold for about $70, pushing their lifespan to nearly 2,000 miles. Loa's Renegade and Tibet models, with their Goodyear welt and full-grain leather, routinely reach 15 years of service. A certified cobbler can resole them twice before the upper wears out, bringing the total cost, boot plus resoles, to around $520. Danner's Pro and Mountain boots, starting at $300, are triple-stitched, factory resolable, and backed by a repair program that keeps them alive for 2 decades. 2 Resoles at $70 each still keep the lifetime cost under $450. Here is the cold math. Buying one $320 boot and resoling it twice costs less than buying 3 replacements at $320 each. Over 10 years, that is $960 wasted on boots that die young, versus $460 for a pair that is rebuilt, not replaced. Or put another way, spending $1,200 once beats spending $600 3 times. Repair technicians see it every day. Cheap boots pile up in the trash, while a well-built pair comes back for another decade of service. The 2-part rule is simple. Check for visible welt stitching and a polyurethane or dual-density midsole. If either is missing, walk away. This checklist filters out 90% of the garbage on the shelf. Buy for repair, not replacement, and you will never get caught in the planned obsolescence trap again. Subscribe now, because next time the same hidden failure is waiting in waterproof jackets, delaminating membranes, false Gore-Tex claims, and the rare brands that still build for repair. Right now, the hiking boot industry banks on failure, selling $200 boots built to die in 500 miles, not 5,000. Repair pros and thru hikers have sounded the alarm for years. The fix is simple: buy only boots that can be resold. Disposable design is the scam. Next, why waterproof jackets are the next lie.